Welcome back to the Partner Spotlight podcast with your host, Lex Mason, president of Weathermatic. This week, I'm joined by Jeffrey Johns of Coastal Greenery in Georgia. Jeffrey has built an incredible organization focused on recruiting and retention. So let's dive in and learn all the magic that happens inside this powerhouse of the Southeast. So if you're ready, let's get growing. Well, so today we've got Jeffrey Johns, good friend of ours out from South Georgia, holding down
go dogs.
That's right, go dogs. So funny story about that. So my mother's side of the family lives in Gainesville, Georgia.
Okay.
And of course, my grandfather was went to Georgia Tech and was a big Yellow Jackets fan. And I think I was trying to remember, like, why did I love the University of Georgia so much? And thinking about it, I was probably that kid that as soon as I heard that he liked the Yellow Jackets, I had to become the biggest Georgia Bulldog fan in the world. So I've got the jerseys and the footballs and all that stuff from the early 2000s. Still, I'm sure it's in a closet somewhere, but go dogs for sure.
Go dogs, brother. Yes, sir.
I love it. Well, hey, thanks so much for hopping on here with us, and let's kind of jump right into it. I'd love to hear, Jeffrey, how you a little bit about your background, where you grew up, where you come from, and ultimately kind of how that led you into the landscaping industry here.
Sure. Well, Lex, I grew up here on South Georgia. I'm right on the coast, right on the beach in an area called St. Simon's Island. And the marketplace is extremely small. We're more of a community than we are a bigger city. And that's what I love about this small town feel. Growing up here and operating a business out of this market has been phenomenal. It's been a great ride. Yes, sir.
Love it. So did you go to born and raised always in South Georgia? Spend any time outside of there, or born and raised, and now your whole family's there, right?
The whole family's here. Short-term stint in Atlanta post-college, but yes, sir. All my life right here. Yes, sir.
Love it. Well, let's talk about Coastal Greenery. So roughly how many employees and what kind of markets do you serve there in South Georgia? What's a normal customer look like for you guys?
So peak season right now, we're running about 107 people. We're operating out of 3 locations. We have our main location here in middle, kind of the south side of Georgia, right on the coast, St. Simon's Island. We have a branch up north in Savannah, Georgia, that we've been operating for a couple years. And then most recently, we opened up a branch down in the Fernandina Beach market, which is right on the Georgia-Florida line of Amelia Island, Florida, Fernandina Beach. So we're operating out of 3 locations, running about 107 people right now.
Man, that's incredible. That's incredible. Well, I know these things don't happen overnight. So how did you get your start in landscaping in the first place? Was this a family run business and second generation? Did you start it out of the back of the pickup truck, or did you have a big pile of cash that you went and bought something with? So what was the start?
Absolutely not. Probably like a lot of us entrepreneurs, man, we, none of that, no money. Didn't come from that. We didn't grow up in the midst of all that. But what I had was, and I think the biggest thing I could think of is when you think of parents, my parents were probably the biggest role models of anybody, especially in my life. And, they taught me and my younger brother more about work ethic than anybody, and started that at a young age. Certain examples, my mom and dad, neither one of them went to college. They graduated high school and all, but when they went to work right after high school, my dad worked at a local industrial factory. My mom worked at the hospital. Both of them retired from those same industries, same place. And what was cool about that is they wasn't job jumping. They wasn't looking for other opportunities. They knew how to create a strong work ethic, and they worked for companies that gave them a pathway for growth. And they used their work ethics to move up the chain in the organizations and grew. And they were probably the biggest role models for me and my brother of seeing that and them instilling that at me at a young age. And also that was a huge part of it. As far as the landscaping side of it, through all that work ethic, Lex, I was probably 13 years old. I don't know, man. Mom and dad worked all the time, and you get home from the summer, dad makes you cut the grass type thing. That was part of my chore. And dude, I loved it. I just immediately I'd start cutting that grass. I mean, hell, I could have cut the grass every day, Lex, no problem. And I loved the way that you could stripe the turf. I loved the way the clean, crisp lines. I liked the way plant material would complement a home, and I liked it. I just loved it instantly, and it just gave me a level of satisfaction that really grew strong with me through that time. So, what was pretty cool about that, when my mom saw that how much I enjoyed it, she had a Ford Galaxy car. That's what
Yeah.
she did. And she went and got rid of that car, and she bought a Ford Econoline van. And I was 14 or so, and she would pick me up from school. She'd let me put my lawn equipment in the back, and I'd run ads in the local paper. And there was 2 days a week she would let me go cut yards after work, and I could have a pocket full of cash as a kid, and I loved it. Then when I turned 16 years old, she would let me take the van on the weekends, and I'd go recruit my brother and my cousin, and we'd go out on Saturday, and man, we could make a few $100 and go cut grass. And for me, it wasn't necessarily about the money. It was just more so about, man, this level of satisfaction. I mean, Lex, if there was cologne made out of fresh cut grass, bro,
You'd be wearing it.
I'd be right in the middle of it. So that's kind of how that all started for me. And then, post graduation in high school, I did that all the way through high school. When
Yeah.
graduation, I was pretty satisfied with just keeping on what I was doing. I was making good money. I was doing all that, but certainly here comes mom again with her idea that, we need to go to college. We needed that opportunity. And we didn't know much about it. Mom didn't, I didn't. And we would send out, there was no email, no internet.
Yeah.
We would send out for brochures. And lo and behold, the University of Georgia had a program called landscape architecture. And just because the term landscape interested me and I liked the brochures read, and I applied and I got in. And so I ended up graduating from University of Georgia with a degree in landscape architecture, and just loved it. It was a good growing ground for me, and opened up a wide arrangement in the industry of what that could do. So that's kind of my earlier years and what went on with me.
Well, that's a beautiful story. I mean, you and I have a lot, a lot similar there. I learned work ethic and drive and all from both of my parents, right? From mom staying up all night to make sure that we had everything, pressed and ready. And I mean, just the mothers in our lives. And I hear you talk about yours. They really are the formidable force that helped us to get where we are today. And the story about the Econoline van, that you went in and sold her car to give you an opportunity to get there after it. So that's just incredible. But on the when I go to my father too, right? I learned work ethic, and I always joke. I think I did an article about what I called the dinner table MBA. So I didn't go to a post grad school or anything like that, but I swear I think I had more learning experiences before I was 14, sitting around the table talking about hiring and firing and challenges at work and growth dilemmas and supply chain issues and quality control and all of those things that, you're never going to get exposed to at a young age. But really, if you tune in, and thankfully I had parents that were willing to not pull any punches and really share the good, the bad, and the ugly with me right there from the beginning. And it's really who made me who I am today. So sounds like you had a similar experience there.
Thankful for great parents. Yes, sir.
Amen to that. So let's kind of flash forward here a little bit to Coastal Greenery. You kind of left us off at where you're recruiting your brother and your cousins and friends and things like that to cut grass on the weekends. So when did the business really, now with 107 employees, has that been a slow, steady growth, a couple people addition, every year since you leaving University of Georgia, or is there kind of an inflection point where it jumped up there? So how do you go from you and a couple friends to 107 people working for you there now?
It's been it's been a very good path.
Yeah.
Next, I can tell you that when I graduated college, I like all the other guys that I was friends with up there, everybody's moving to Atlanta.
Yeah.
Right. So of course, there goes Jeffrey going to move to Atlanta. Dude, I was a landscape architect, fresh out of college, all the above. And I was going to all these interviews. And I remember in a 2-week period, Lex, I think I had 15 plus interviews.
Oh, yeah.
With different landscape architecture firms. And I'd get on the elevator, go up to the 21st floor of one of those high rises, walk out, and there's these guys in ties and sitting at desks and drafting boards and all this stuff. And I was really felt out of my element with that. And I remember on one of those interviews, it was really one of my last ones. I was really boshing all the interviews. They could tell that that's really not who I was. Yeah. Sitting in those offices. And I remember this guy, and I wished I could remember his name, but I don't. And I'm sitting in that interview, and he really looked at me and he said, Jeffrey, he said, based on what you're telling me, based on what I'm seeing and what discussion we're having, he said, dude, he said, you would fit in really well with some of these big landscape firms here in Atlanta. And he said, and I know a couple of them. He said, I would love to make those phone calls for you and set it up. So that was one morning about 10 o'clock. And he got on his phone in his office and he called a company. The name of the company was the Morrell Group in Atlanta, Georgia. And they told me to come on for an interview. So I left his office and drove to their facility in Duluth, Georgia, did the interview. They offered me a job on the spot. And Lex, this was a commercial landscape maintenance company. And we're talking, this was like in 1993, 92, 93, and a long time ago. And man, dude, the first day of work, when I walked out there, they had about 120 employees. They were about a $6-7 million business in commercial landscape maintenance. And Lex, it was and they put me on a crew cutting grass
that day.
Yeah. And Lex, I don't mind telling you, my mind was blown at what this industry offered at that time. I mean, they had rollout processes, they had scheduling processes, they had account managers that were selling enhancement. I mean, it was lights out. And I did that for a couple of years and learned a ton. And my girlfriend at the time, we knew we were getting married. We wanted to be back home. And so I took a lot of that past stuff that I learned and came back to our hometown and started up Coastal Greenery. It was 1994.
Wow.
Started this business, and it was just me with a borrowed lawnmower, borrowed trailer. And I picked up those same yards I was doing in high school. And that's what I started. So
that's incredible. I love hearing that, because it's, you and I were talking before we pressed record here about the opportunity that exists in the green industry. And when I work with individuals outside of this industry and start to share some of the stories, that's what inspired this whole podcast series, if you will, was the opportunities that exist here in this industry, from operational roles to production roles, to sales, to account management, to marketing, even finance and accounting. And then at the executive level, of course, these are not show up, drop the trailer, cut the grass, hop back in and go wing it. These are incredibly run and operated businesses now that are generating tremendous cash flow, that are generating, incredible opportunities for advancement for people from all sorts of makeups and backgrounds. And it's been so inspiring. The more that we grow here at Weathermatic, and the more partnerships that we develop, like ours with Coastal Greenery, getting to meet these owners and their teams and hearing the story behind how they got started, and candidly the life that it's afforded you and your family, and the life that it's afforded those 107 individuals that work there for you. I mean, it's truly inspirational. So what are some things? Let's hop into today's time. Staying power, right? You guys are what does that make you? 29 years old now at Coastal. You're one away from the big 3-0. So I just turned 30 back in November. So I think I wrestled with that just a little bit, but that's a story for another time. So you guys are almost 30 years old in business, and I'm sure the challenges that you're facing today are very different than what you were facing before. What are some things that you guys are wrestling with here now, and maybe anything creative that you've come up with to solve some problems that exist in the landscape business today?
Lex, and what I'm about to say, I probably see it in a lot of the companies today, a lot of smaller companies. And, our industry is made up of a tremendous amount of leadership. It's phenomenal on what I see. But I could think of a time back several years ago. We had been in business for about 10 years and heavily focused on the horticultural technical side of the business, right?
Yeah.
How to cut grass, how to make the grass green, how to water it, all those good things. And when you drove by a Coastal Greenery property, you could tell that was our property. The problem is we wasn't making money at it.
Yeah.
And I remember vividly, I walked into our office at the time. We had been in business 8-9 years. I don't remember how long. I walked in, we had $14,000 of bills to pay, and I had about $750 in the checkbook. And, you talk about your wind get knocked out. And I see businesses like this now where we know horticulture, we know that, but we don't know how to run a business. We don't know pricing methods. We don't know budgets, and we don't know what gross margins mean, actual hours, man hours, all these type things. And it was a huge lesson for me. And after a lot of borrowed money for a full summer, I started seeking out. I could have folded up and went the other cheek, but through that determination and that passion for landscape, I started seeking out industry veterans at the time. And what's cool about our industry, Lex, is that this is such an open industry.
People want to help.
I have never met a entrepreneur. I've never met an ops manager. Nobody. I've never met anybody that's not willing to give you an ear or give you advice or share an experience with you. That has been the most phenomenal thing that I've experienced about this industry. And through my times, especially that time I'm speaking of, I met several. I can name probably the most two pivotal men that's played a huge role in my life as a business entrepreneur has been a guy named Jack Mattingly. I don't know if anybody recognizes that name or heard of him. He was a great industry veteran back in the day. And the second one was Kevin Kehoe. And Kevin actually, that I sought Kevin out back at that time. I was struggling like that. And Kevin took me in his pathway of leadership and processes and systems over a 12-year period. And he invested so much into me with his stuff that he teaches and that he taught, from budgeting to pricing to, all the above. That was just a game changer for me. And that 12 years through working with Kevin was probably the most pivotal point of my career. And
he really was. He was an industry. I mean, is right. He was an industry icon that did so much. So many times I have this conversation, and his name comes up as like he was a giver, right? He gave support, he gave advice, he gave opportunity. I mean, I have a similar experience with him, not over 12 years, but over 2 or 3. When we got together on his latest venture there. And he was like, guys, y'all need to target this way. That you ought to represent, SmartLink as a labor solution. Like water's important, but these guys are battling labor. They're trying to do more with less. And really he helped us tremendously kind of restructure and retarget the way that we were bringing things that we've been making and manufacturing forever. He gave us that kind of courage, maybe is all it was, to go out and label it as a solution to a problem that we didn't know really existed at quite the scale that it did. And so he was, just an incredible person, and somebody who's going to be missed.
Yes, sir. Big time. He was an instrumental part in the growth of Coastal Greenery over that time. And a lot of the things that he taught me, they don't get old. I use them to this day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, he was quite the person there. Let's go to so current work and kind of some innovation. So I know some of the systems and the tools that you're running there. So what was kind of the original thought when we first got together here with working with Weathermatic, and tell a little bit of that story. So I
Yeah.
know I know you guys had been doing landscape and obviously like irrigation services there for a long time, but what kind of gave you the idea to try to jump off and do irrigation a little differently than what you had before?
Well, what was pretty cool, Lex, is as our growth was happening at our business, water management, especially here on South Georgia coastline, supplemental water to those irrigation system is necessary. It's not a choice. It's necessary. You got to have it. And so we had a water management process. We were selling irrigation inspections already in our contracts. We were given irrigation reports to our client base. We were providing the repairs and proposals for upgrades on those. We were doing all that stuff. And when I met you and your dad, and I started studying the Weathermatic, the way the industry's going, I mean, everything's evolving to more efficient ways to do things. And when I started looking at what you gentlemen had to offer, especially with the SmartLink system, and I started looking at it, one of the biggest things that I understood at the beginning was it was such a low cost to me to get started. And where technology today is so expensive to implement systems and processes, you gentlemen had this thing figured out that, man, we're going to come in here. We're changing the way that we're managing that water. And it was a low cost to me on the upside, on the front side, which was a huge gain. And then when you come in here, I took a system that was already in place, and I implemented that SmartLink system in here. And we were able to, I'll give you an example. I mean, on a production day, a typical technician was on a 10-hour work day. He was giving me about 6.5 hours of production time in the field. Mm-hmm. The rest of the time was driving or doing paperwork, proposals or doing those reports, those type things.
Yeah.
When we implemented Weathermatic in here, man, the production time went to about a 9-hour day, 10, because with that mobile app system, it allows our technicians to go out in the field. They could turn that system on and off with the cell phones. They're not driving or scrambling back and forth from the clock to turn it on and off. They're able to generate those reports sight on hand with photos. They're able to generate the estimates for repair work automatically. And it put us more in a proactive situation, Lex, that we preach around here. We want to do everything proactive and not reactionary. And this allowed us to do that because water management is a very reactionary world. Yeah. And that SmartLink system put us at the leading edge, and it gives our customers, it's a great selling feature to our customers for water savings and that they can offer, and just being proactive on their watering systems. And I'll tell you, to put dollar perspectives to things, in 2022, I think when we started with you guys, we had, I'm guessing here, Lex, a little bit. I want to say we started out with, it was around 25, 30 controllers, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And we started implementing all that. Our end of the year sales, by starting that, was on water management, was about we did about 580,000 of revenue that year, which was about a 22% increase from the year before.
Yeah.
All right. Now you fast forward to this year. We're slowly through contract renewals and new contracts coming in. We're continually upgrading those SmartLink systems to all of our client base. And I don't know, 100 plus controllers now. And we're on target right now to do a little over $1 million of revenue in water management this year. We have not added a truck. We did add a technician in there, but we haven't added vehicles and whatnot, Lex. And it's crazy at the level of, it's not crazy, it's just technology, but it's the level of efficiency that Weathermatic has afforded us. especially in a time where efficiency is how we make our money. And
That's it. I mean, when you
partnering with
look at,
Weathermatic has been huge for us.
well, Jeffrey, I can't appreciate you enough for saying that. One of the things that we have to do in this business that we're doing at Weathermatic, that you're doing at Coastal Greenery, and that other landscape business owners have got to do the same thing. When you look at how much wages have increased and costs have increased, I mean, the price of fertilizer, the prices of fuel. I mean, good Lord, don't even look at what you're paying for an F-150 now versus what you're paying for it 3 or 4 years ago. It's 2 or 3x on a lot of those numbers. But you probably haven't been able to increase your billable to that same client 200%. And so what do we have to do is we have to look at any possible way we can to stretch our people further, make them more effective, insert technology into parts of the business that maybe outside of our comfort zone originally, but start to see that stuff pay off. Because for us to have staying power in the green industry, right, we have to continue to push that envelope forward and bring in new technology and new processes to help us last, like you guys, 30 years. You don't stay around that long doing it the same way every day, every time. You gotta keep with the times and continue to push forward. And you guys have done an incredible job of doing that. We're happy to play our little part in it there.
I truly believe, Lex, that as leaders in our industry, what we're doing at Coastal Greenery is we're managing the processes, and this water management system is a process, and we manage the processes, but we lead the people through the processes. And these processes, we can get things done more efficiently. Our folks at Coastal Greenery can go home more financially prosperous because they can make more money. Yeah. The company's getting what they need. We can invest more into equipment and things like that. So things like what you guys have offered us here has been a game changer in being able to do those things.
We're honored to be your partner in it. Last thing I want to hit here before we kind of wrap up is, I know recruiting is a word that I think is on every landscape business owner's mind, right? How do we keep our teams staffed? How do we recruit maybe from different industries or different types of people than what we were focused on 5 or 10 years ago? So what are some of your recruiting strategies to keep 107 people staffed there and working for you? And how have you gone about doing that?
Well, in the past couple of years, recruiting efforts have changed. So now recruiters are part of payroll now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an opportunity for a lot of people that, as a horticulturalist like myself, I don't know about recruiting. I know relationships and how to do that, but that has become a full-time position for us here at Coastal Greenery, and we've got some phenomenal members here on the team that do a great job at that. And our recruiting efforts are a lot of boots on the ground. Yeah, we've got a lot of recruiting efforts. We do participate in things like H2B. We participated in that for a few years now. But when it comes to looking elsewhere and recruiting, boots on the ground, if I'm, you got to go where the people hang out. Lex. Yeah. And that's the best way I can explain it. And whether it's local, like I could give you an example. Every Saturday, we have a local park here that has soccer fields galore. And they have huge soccer tournaments out there every Saturday. Yeah. And man, you know what having water bottles with Coastal Greenery's logo on it does when you just take a team of people and walk down the soccer fields and start talking to people and passing out your water bottles and whatnot, or even sponsoring a team and things like that, and the recruiting efforts that you can do. And soccer is generally speaking, those are Hispanic workforces, and those gentlemen, I like doing those type things. We do a lot of internships. Just got some interns from the University of Tennessee.
You let them in that building?
I let them in, brother. They're here. But we didn't have them change colors by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
But, internships have played a big role for us here. And Lex, not just horticulture. I mean, business management. I mean, accountants, those type things. those type, recruiting those type people from colleges in here and showing them a different industry and the way they can prosper has been huge for us. And even offering those internships in accounting, internships in business management and things has been huge for us. So,
when you think about that that's an awesome comment of offering accounting internships within, the landscape company. Two things. When you go to one of the big four and you do that, there is, because I have a couple of buddies that, that went that route, and, they loved it, and some of them stuck with it. Some of them, kind of came out of it for sure, but it's so narrow when you start there. There's such a narrow scope of work that the average kind of even first 2 or 3 years that you see when you go there, compared to you come to a small business. I don't care whether it's landscaping or whether it's here, manufacturing, software development, whatever it may be, the breadth of experience that you're going to get walking in as an intern. Like, we don't have any interns that don't contribute. If you're coming here, you're going to get to work. You're going to get to do something. You're going to get to go back, not with just a company logo on your resume of what you got done. You're going to get to list job responsibilities that you were held accountable for delivering on your resume. You're going to get experience. And so, that's one thing. That the second thing is that I think there's a lot of folks out there, whether they're in accounting, whether they're in finance, or, wanting to do business management, that are outdoors people that can't stand the idea of being locked in a cubicle or an office, 40, 50 hours a week. And something about, while that might be their skill set of accounting or finance, doing it for a company that is constantly doing things outside, making the landscape beautiful. I mean, catching your grass bug, early on of what, fresh cut grass, and being able to leave a visual impact on properties after you get done. I think there's more people out there that desire that outdoorsy feel, even if their skill set might not actually be an outdoor skill set, exactly. that we can start to tap more into. And that recruiting piece of, I love the water bottles, and, going to where the workforce is. If we're to, if we think that, posting things on LinkedIn or Indeed or, monster job recruiter boards, or putting a sign in front of your office and sitting there scratching your head going, why can't we keep these roles filled? But you're not willing to roll up your sleeves and get out there where these, where the workforce is. You're going to be waiting a long time for those roles to get filled. But that is, there's a lot of truth in rolling up your sleeves and getting after it. I also heard you talk about, you can't manage, you can't improve what you don't track. And as serious as you're going to be about it, is as serious as that result that's going to come. And so, dedicating staff members, team members to recruiting and making that a formal function is going to lead to a formal result. Same thing on, recruiting, same thing on, water management and irrigation. The more professional, the more intentional that we are around these different facets of our business, is what leads us to it. And you shared the story about finding financial and business coaches, when the company was in a tough spot. I think a lot of people, especially, the smaller business owners still, they're in the middle trying to figure this out. They enjoy the outdoors, they enjoy landscaping, but they're not a business manager, is not their primary skill set. Don't be afraid to go out there and seek out help. There's tremendous consultants in this industry. And even better than that, you said it here at the beginning. The whole term of friendly competition has never been more true than it is in the landscape industry. I have yet to meet anyone in this industry here that isn't willing to help out, a brother in arms or a sister in arms that are battling things that they've went through. It is a competitive market, but there is always somebody willing to roll up their sleeves and help out somebody who's facing things that maybe they went through earlier on in life.
Exactly. I mean, helping each other out goes a long way. And I have picked up that phone many a time, Lex, and read about someone in a magazine or online or whatnot, and called that individual and got to know them a little bit. And next thing you know, one of us is on a plane
Yeah.
going to each other's facility and learning from each other. I've done that a lot. I enjoy that part of it.
Yeah, that's the truth. Well, hey, Jeffrey, really appreciate all that you're doing here in the industry to grow it. And just the reputation that you're helping stack up on this industry. Coastal Greenery, incredible business that you've built there, and congratulations on 30 years. It's an honor to be your partner in the irrigation side of the business, and wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you very much, Lex. Thanks for having me today, brother.
Absolutely. Hey, this was great. Thank you so much. Really loved hearing the full story. I don't think I've heard it all the way through like that. So this was a lot of fun.
Thank you, Lex. You have a good day, buddy.
All right, buddy. Y'all take care.